pump monitor valve to open.
The open. I'm taking the emergency MPEP out here to open to help you guys. All right, both of you monitor your Sophie gauge. If it gets up to 5.5, let us know.
1.
And this is Mission Control Houston. Following those suit leak checks and system checks at 5 psi or pounds per square inch inside the crew log, that depressurization process has now resumed. Again, this depressurization will take the crew log down to vacuum to match that of space. And at that point, the suits will be switched to battery power, which will mark the official start of today's spacewalk. Again, today's spacewalk is expected to last about 6.5 hours. As the crew works to complete the installation of a replacement space-to-ground or SCANT antenna. This is Mission Control Houston as the crew log depressurization process continues ahead of today's spacewalk. That crew log is now just under 3 psi or pounds per square inch. Once it reaches about 2 psi, the crew will go ahead and complete some additional procedures related to the manual isolation valve, and they will also report initial tether configurations ahead of egress. And then the final depressurization will take place, bringing the crew lock all the way down to vacuum.
We're passing 2.0 psi, EV2. You can reach out and take the depress pump manual isolation valve to the closed position.
Depress pump ISO valve is closed.
Copy closed, and on the UIA, you can take the depress pump power switch to the off OFF position.
Depress pump power switch is off OFF.
Copy OFF, and as always, it's a pleasure getting you guys to close the vacuum, and we will pass it off to Ann and the team down in Houston for the rest of your adventure today.
Thank you, Jack and Jessica, and hello, Ann. Good morning, Anil and Sophie. It's game day. Let's do it. We'll take your initial tether config.
All right, I'll start off with EV1. Starting on the left, I've got a left keyring extender that's attached to a small hook on my waist tether, closed lock, black on black. Large hook is unlocked on that same D-ring extender. And moving over to the right, I have a D-ring extender.
This is Mission Control Houston inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room, which you can see a live look inside that room there on your screen. The Orbit 2 team of flight controllers being led by NASA Flight Director Chris Dobbins are on console.
Red reel, closed lock, black on black. And then that anchor hook is on my MWF. On my red reel, I also have EV2's anchor hook, closed lock, black on black. I'm going to hand it over to Sophie to go through her tether config.
Okay, thank you, Anil. I'll start with my right side, right D-ring extender. I have waist tether, which is also gate closed locked black on black, and the other hand is on my mini workstation. On this right D-ring extender, I also have the red hook, gate closed locked black on black. Going to the red reel, which is unlocked. On this red reel, I have the green hook. It closed, locked, black on black. Red reel also leads to the yellow hook. Gate closed, locked, black on black, which is on the green reel. This green reel is locked, confirmed. And I see the anchor hook that is going to EV1's red, and I see it's gate closed, not black on black. On my left side, I have a D-ring extender with the small hook, gate closed, locked, black on black, going to the airlock waist tether, and I see both large hook of the waist tether, gate closed, locked, black and black, and the airlock waist tether small hook is gate closed, locked, black on black on the airlock D-ring extender that gives a good load path to station.
All right, that is mostly a good config, and unfortunately we had a handover in Hill right as you started talking. So if you wouldn't mind giving us your tether config again. We got everything after the green hook on the red reel, but we're looking for your the status of your red hook and your yellow hook on the green reel, and your right waist tether.
Copy that. Right waist tether is on the right D-ring extender, small hook, closed lock, black on black, and the large hook's on my MWF. And the closed lock, black on black. Green reel was unlocked, and then the anchor hook was on my MWF.
And Anil, we just need the status of your small red hook, please.
Red hook, closed lock, black on black on my D-ring right side.
Okay, Neil, we appreciate the extra work there, and those are good tether configs. And for both of you, we're just above 1 PSI. We're expecting about 11 more minutes in the depress.
Good copy.
Good copies.
This is Mission Control Houston. You just heard NASA astronaut Anil McLean, who is serving as the ground IV, working through the initial tether configurations for EV1 and EV2. Again, for today's spacewalk, EV1 is NASA astronaut Anil Menon, and EV2 is ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adenot. They reported those initial tether configurations ahead of egress, or exiting the Quest airlock of the International Space Station. That egress will come once the crew lock depressurization process is fully complete. There's about 10 minutes remaining in that depressurization process. The crew lock is just above about 1 psi, or pound per square inch. Again, it has to go all the way down to vacuum before that egress process can begin. Throughout today's spacewalk, you will hear NASA astronaut Anil McLean serving as the ground IV, speaking with the spacewalkers and walking them through the procedures for today. And then also there is a CAPCOM, or capsule communicator, who is Steven Zenter, and he will still be responsible for communicating with the crew members still inside the International Space Station. This is Mission Control Houston. You're currently seeing a live look inside the equipment lock portion of the Quest airlock, and there at the bottom portion of your screen you can see NASA astronaut Jessica Meir. Jessica, alongside NASA astronaut Jack Hathaway, are providing support for today's spacewalk from inside the International Space Station. Before the crew members for today's spacewalk, again, NASA astronaut Anil Menon and ESA astronaut Sophie Adenot were moved into the crew lock portion just beyond that hatchway you see there on your screen. Jessica and Jack assisted them with donning their... Right now, the crew lock is continuing to be depressurized down to vacuum. It is currently sitting at about 0.75 psi, or pounds per square inch. Once it is all the way down to vacuum, the crew will then turn their suits on battery power, which will mark the official start of today's spacewalk. Again, today's spacewalk is the 283rd spacewalk, and it is the third spacewalk for this month and the sixth out of the International Space Station this year. The spacewalk today is expected to last about 6.5 hours, and the primary goal for today is to finish replacing the space-to-ground antenna, or SGANT, on the International Space Station's Z1 truss. This work initially began last week on August 18th, when Anil and Sophie first ventured out of the space station for a 6-hour and 23-minute spacewalk, and they were able to remove the failed antenna and secured it on the station's truss structure. However, they needed a bit more time to disconnect electrical cables and loosen bolts, which delayed the installation of the replacement antenna. So today, Anil and Sophie will go ahead and retrieve that new unit to complete the installation process. Once the crew lock depressurization process is complete, the spacewalkers will go ahead and open the outer thermal hatch and the hatch on the crew lock section and place their suits on internal battery power. They've been working through the depressurization process for about the last 25 minutes or so. The entire process takes about 30 minutes to complete. Again, the crew lock section is continuing to be depressurized down to vacuum. It's currently at about 0.65 psi or pounds per square inch. The pressure of the suits that the crew members wear for their spacewalk, or the extravehicular mobility units, which are those white spacesuits, sit at a pressure of about 4.3 psi, and the internal pressure of the International Space Station itself has a pressure of about 14.7 psi, which matches that of about what we experience here on Earth. Once they begin the process of egressing or exiting the International Space Station, first out of the hatch will be EV-1, which is NASA astronaut Anil Menon, and he will be followed by EV-2, who is ESA astronaut Sophie Adenot. Anil, serving as EV-1, has the suit with the red stripes, and Sophie, serving as EV-2, is wearing an unmarked suit. Once they exit the airlock, they will complete some initial checks of each other, which are called buddy checks, where they examine each other's suits and tethers to make sure that everything is in order and looking good before they begin moving away from the airlock and working into their procedures for today.
Anil and Sophie, we are estimate about 2 minutes left.
One copy.
Copy.
This is Mission Control Houston. You just heard NASA astronaut Anne McClain, who is serving as the ground IV here in Mission Control for today's spacewalk, speaking with NASA astronaut Anil Menon and ESA astronaut Sophie Adenot, who are currently in the crew lock portion of the Quest airlock of the International Space Station as they continue the depressurization process down to vacuum. They reported that there's about 2 minutes remaining in that depressurization process. The crew lock right now is sitting at a pressure of about 0.5 psi. For today's spacewalk, again, the crew members will be installing a replacement S-Gant, or space-to-ground antenna, on the International Space Station's Z1 truss. Last November, S-Gant number 2 began experiencing periodic pointing issues during auto-track operations, basically meaning it wasn't properly gimbaling or orienting itself to communicate with NASA's Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System, or TDRS. And as a result, the flight control team switched operations to S-Gant number 1, which continues to provide high-rate video, voice, and telemetry for controllers here in Houston and around the world. But following today's SGANT installation, the redundancy for that space-to-ground antenna system will be restored. For a little bit of history, the very first space-to-ground antenna that was installed on the International Space Station C1 truss was carried into orbit on STS-92 in October of 2000. And the spare SGAN, or space-to-ground antenna, that is being installed today to replace the degraded antenna was delivered on the STS-127 mission in July of 2009. The faulty antenna that was removed and temporarily stowed outside the International Space Station last week.
Okay, EV1, Anil, step 13. You can verify the EV hatch gauge is less than 0.6.
Hatch gauge less than 0.6.
Copy. You are going to open the EV hatch and stow it.
Uncopied go. In work. Hatch is open and stowed.
Copy. And for airlock, you can take the emergency MPEV to closed.
Emergency MPAD is closed.
Copy. Thanks. Okay, staggering switch throws, EV1 and 2. You can switch power to BAT and expect warning tone.
Okay, one will go first.
Yep.
Power bat.
2 in work. Power back.
Copy for 1 and 2. You can now switch your display to Pro to verify functional display.
One has a functional display.
2 functional display.
Copy. Sophie, on the UIA, switch power EV1 and 2 to off OFF and check all 4 LEDs off OFF.
To switch power EV1 OFF, all LED off, and switch power EV2 OFF, and all 4 LEDs off. Expected H2O is OFF on my DCM.
Okay, we copy, and that is an expected message. For both crew, you can remove your SCU from your DCM, install the DCM cover, and stow the SCU in the pouch with pouch Velcro closed.
One copy in work.
2 copies in work.
This is Mission Control Houston with NASA astronaut Anil Menon and ESA astronaut Sophie Adenot having placed their suits on battery power. Today's spacewalk has officially begun, that taking place at 7:27 a.m. Central Time, 8:27 a.m. Eastern Time. Again, today's spacewalk is the 283rd spacewalk in support of space station assembly, maintenance, and upgrades.
One stowed.
Stowed.
Copy. Sophie, you can check that the depress pump man ISO valve is closed.
Depress pump my alpha valve is closed.
Copy for both crew. Take your temperature control valve to max hot, lowest numbers.
One's max hot.
2 max hot.
Copy. You can both switch water to on, O-N, water on.
One, water on.
2 water on, O-N.
Check that your DCM is blank and your byte off.
One blank, byte off.
2 blank, byte off.
Copy. You can each set your temperature control valve as desired. And as you do so, just a reminder to report all TCV changes and best practice not to do large changes over 2.
One set 6 TCV.
2 TCV 5.
Okay, we copy both, and you can report your suit P gauge. We're about to have a handover, so you can set your visors as required, and I'll get your suit P on the flip side.
This is Mission Control Houston. We are currently in a brief but expected handover between tracking and data relay satellite system.